What's up guys, here we are, it's another week at the Home Theater Hobbyist, and this week we have our comparison between the Denon AVR-X4400H and the Yamaha RX-A2070. So let's get to it. So here we are, this is the comparison some of you have been waiting for. If you aren't aware, we've already reviewed both of these receivers individually and unboxed them. So please check down below in the description for the links to those videos. Okay, so this is the Denon and this is the Yamaha. They're both 9.2 channel receivers, which means out of the box they will support a 5.2.4 speaker configuration or a 7.2.2 speaker configuration. They both support Dolby Atmos and DTS:X. They also support 4K UHD pass-through with BT 2020 wide color support. They both also support 3D pass-through. They also have HDR support for HDR10, Dolby Vision, and Hybrid Log Gamma. They both have Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, AirPlay, Spotify, Tidal, Deezer, and Pandora music streaming services. They both have a phono input for you turntable aficionados and AM/FM radio support. Okay, let's move on to differences, and we'll start with the Denon. The Denon actually supports 11 channels of processing, and what this means is if you add a 2-channel external amp, you can have a 7.2.4 speaker configuration in your home. The Denon also supports Auro 3D, which is another 3-dimensional audio format. Also, in a future firmware upgrade, this Denon will support enhanced audio return channel. The Denon also supports Odyssey's multi-EQ XT32 automatic room calibration, and it has one extra zone out over the Yamaha. Now, moving on to the Yamaha. Now, the Yamaha doesn't have as many features as the Denon has, but it does have a higher build quality. They use higher quality components to give you a better sound stage. They also separate the left and right channels within the box, so you should hear more sound separation. Some of the things that I noticed with this box was just how much larger it is compared to the Denon. It's about 3¼ inches longer or deeper in this direction, and it's about an inch taller. One of the places where I think this is most prominent is probably in how these boxes are cooled. Yamaha is passively cooled, which means air just kind of flows, the hot air just flows out of the top, whereas the Denon actually has an active cooling strategy in that they have 2 fans below it, and so it blows heat out of the top. The Yamaha also includes Yamaha's proprietary Y-POW automatic room calibration with reflected sound control. Okay. Now we've talked about similarities and we've talked about differences. Let's get into the testing and what my results were. Okay, so the first thing I did was I ran each receiver's 8-point room calibration. I started with the Denon and I used its placement that it suggested for each point, and I repeated that with the Yamaha so I could get as close to back-to-back comparison as possible. The one thing that the Yamaha does do that the Denon didn't do was it actually takes into account an angle and height measurement. They give you 2 plastic pieces that you stick one into the other and you move the mic around so it can figure out the angle and height of your Atmos enabled speakers or your Atmos speaker. On average, these measurements took about 15 minutes for each receiver. So once I completed the room calibration, I sat down and I listened to music and I watched movies. I didn't change any of the settings because I wanted to hear how they sounded in their totally calibrated settings. And the main thing I found was that the Yamaha seemed a little bit clearer while the Denon was warmer and slightly muddier, and that really became apparent in music. And I wasn't sure what was going on. But then I dug into the settings, and what I realized was that each of the receivers picked a different EQ point. The Yamaha was EQ'd flat, while the Denon was EQ'd in their reference mode. And what the menu says about the reference mode is it has a slight roll off at the high frequencies. It's optimized for movies. And so that's what gave me a little bit more muddy type sound. But that wasn't a deal breaker because I knew I could always EQ, I could change the EQ if I wanted to, because each of these receivers has different preset EQs, but you can also customize the EQ to your liking. Denon even includes an app that you can EQ your receiver from using your phone or your tablet. Okay, after I finished that test, I decided I was going to try to set both of these receivers up on an even playing field. And what I did was I set all my speakers to small, set the crossover for each speaker at 80 Hertz. Then I set the speaker level or input level to 0 dB all the way around the room. I know that the distances are a little different and some speakers were going to be a little louder, but that didn't really matter for my testing. And I also set the EQ for each receiver to flat. Then I'll watch the same movies and listen to the same music again. From a movie standpoint, it was a toss-up, guys. Both of these receivers are really, really good, and they sound really, really good regardless of what you're watching, and it's just fun. They're both really fun. There was just a hair bit more clarity with the Yamaha, but I mean, it was just a hair. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Unless you're a super goldenaire, that does not matter. But they were both really, really good. Moving on to music, what I noticed was, again, there was a little bit more clarity, and the Yamaha was also a little bit brighter than the Denon. Of course, the brightness can be fixed a little bit with EQ, so I really wouldn't worry about that. But I also did notice a little bit better stereo separation, and I think that may have to do with the build quality of the Yamaha. I'm not really sure, but there was a little bit better stereo separation. So those are the main tests that I performed. I really, really enjoyed both of these particular receivers, but here's my overall recommendations. If you're looking for features, go with the Denon. It has features for days. I mean, this is feature packed. This is no slouch. The Yamaha's no slouch, but the Denon really wins the feature race. From a movie standpoint, it's a toss-up. They both are excellent. I mean, just excellent. I don't have any complaints with either one of them. The only difference I would mention is the Denon has a little bit better user interface in that each menu item explains what it does, whereas you have to go to the actual manual for the Yamaha, but otherwise, they both are really, really good from a movie standpoint. Moving on to music, I have to give the slight edge to Yamaha. There was a little bit more clarity there, and the stereo separation was a little bit better. Not much, but it was there, and I did notice it through several songs. And from a build quality standpoint, Yamaha takes the cake. I even like the way the volume knob feels over the Denon. I mean, this is just a beautiful, well, I shouldn't say beautiful because it doesn't look great, but it is a very, very nice receiver. They both have flip down doors. Overall, I really, really like both of these receivers. They're really great. If you choose one and you don't like the other, or you choose the other and you don't like the first one, it doesn't really matter. They're both really, really good receivers. Now, for which one I'm picking, I'm actually going to pick the Denon. And the reason why I'm picking the Denon is mainly because it supports more features. So I'll be able to do more testing with things like Oro 3D and enhanced audio return channel when it shows up. But that is no knock on the Yamaha. The Yamaha is really, really good. And honestly, guys, it took me a long time to make this decision. I literally just made this decision hours ago because I kept going back and forth. And I was really, really heavily leaning towards the Yamaha. But when I thought about it from a feature standpoint, it's like I can test a lot more features with this receiver than this receiver. So that's what it comes down to. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Please like, subscribe, and comment below. We'll talk to you next time.